Today, Saturday, June 15th, 3:14 p.m. The garden at the St. Regis Hotel. The humidity is exactly 82%. It is a heavy, suffocating moisture that clings to the lungs like a damp wool blanket. The air smells of wet slate, diesel exhaust from the idling limousines, and $12 per stem white avalanche peonies. There are exactly 4,500 peonies in the garden today. I know the number because I authorized the wire transfer for the floral invoice. $54,000. That is more than the median annual salary in this zip code. That is 4,320 hours of my life, calculated at my starting analyst wage of $12.50 an hour. I am standing in the gravel parking lot, 100 yards away from the white silk tulle of the altar. I am standing under a $5 plastic umbrella I bought from a Shell station because my sister told me I couldn't use the hotel's VIP valet service. I'm wearing a navy blue dress from a clearance rack at a suburban outlet. The tag is still scratching the back of my neck. The fabric doesn't breathe. It traps the heat of my resentment against my skin. 10 minutes ago, Daisy's voice came through my iPhone 13, the one with the cracked screen I haven't had time to fix. Her voice was cold, linear, devoid of inflection. She sounded like an automated weather station announcing a disaster. She said, "Sarah, I've been talking to Julian's mother. She is sensitive to textures. When she looks at the front row, she needs to see a certain directional symmetry. When she looks at the front row, she needs to see a certain... your energy. It's too workhorse, honey. Your hands have that look, the look of someone who has seen too much industrial soap." The groom's family is elite. They are old money Ivy League. Your presence in that dress, with those stories about your data audits, it ruins the aesthetic of the table. It introduces a middle-class friction into the photographs. I've made a decision for the brand, for our future. You aren't invited to the ceremony, Sarah. I've paid for a room for you at the Marriott down the street. Order a steak. Charge it to the card. I'll send you the professional edits in 3 weeks. You understand, don't you? You're so sturdy. You're the foundation. And foundations are meant to stay under the dirt. She didn't pay for the Marriott room. I did. I paid for the steak she's about to eat. I paid for the Vera Wang Nightingale gown currently cinching her waist. I paid for the vintage 1998 Krug champagne chilling in the silver buckets. Total wedding cost, $102,450.62. I have the ledger open on my lap right now. I am sitting in the front seat of my 2018 Toyota Corolla. The engine is off. The heat is rising. The dashboard smells like sun-baked plastic and old receipts. If you are watching this, please subscribe. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from. Have you ever been the bank of last resort for a family that was ashamed to be seen with you at the teller window? I look at the hotel entrance. I see the groom's father, Preston. He is wearing a tuxedo that cost $8,000. He is sipping a gin and tonic. He has no idea that the old money dream he is witnessing is a theatrical production built on my 80-hour work weeks. Daisy told him our father was a retired architect. Our father was a drywall contractor who died with $4 in his checking account. Daisy told him I was a hermit scholar living in the mountains on a research grant. She lied about me like I was a criminal record she was trying to expunge. I look at my laptop screen. The St. Regis guest Wi-Fi is slow. 3.2 megabits per second. It feels like a countdown. I have the vendor portal open. 16 tabs, the florist, the caterer, the string quartet, the lighting designer, the valet service. None of their contracts were signed by Daisy Miller. None of their credit cards belong to the bride. They belong to Sarah Miller, CEO of Spine Logistics, LLC. And every single contract has a force majeure and discretionary cancellation clause. A clause I personally drafted with my legal team last year. The clause allows the primary payer to revoke all services with a 90% refund if operational integrity is compromised. The window for the discretionary revocation expires in exactly 7 minutes, at 3:21 p.m. I look at my hands. The hands Daisy called workhorse hands. The skin is dry around the cuticles. There is a faint scar on my left thumb from a paper cut I got while filing the articles of incorporation for the company that now funds her lifestyle. These hands have moved $10 million in assets this year. These hands have signed the checks for her lip fillers, her Balenciaga bags, and her art history degree that she never used. These hands are currently hovering over the Cancel All Services button on the master dashboard. I remember 2016. I was 24. I lived in a basement apartment in Queens. The ceiling leaked every time the person upstairs took a shower. Drip. Drip. The sound of gray water hitting a plastic bucket. I worked as a junior data analyst for a predatory hedge fund. I worked 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. My dinner was a 99-cent slice of pizza I ate on the subway. Daisy called me that winter. She was in Paris. She was finding herself at a cafe in La Marais. She needed $4,000 for emergency tuition. It wasn't for tuition. It was for a vintage Chanel vanity case she saw at an auction. I gave her the money. I stayed in the basement. I wore 2 pairs of socks to bed because the heater was broken. My mother said, "Sarah, you're the oldest. You're the sturdy chair." Daisy is a butterfly. You can't ask a butterfly to pay for its own wings. You'll always be fine. Daisy, she's fragile. She needs the sun. The sun is hitting the parking lot now. It is a brutal, unblinking light. I look at the clock on my dashboard. 3:15 p.m. The string quartet has just started playing 1,000 years. I can hear the faint, melodic strain of the cello through the open window. It sounds like $3,000 of my money drifting into the humid air. Daisy is at the door of the St. Regis suite. She's looking at her reflection in the gold leaf mirror. She is adjusting her $1,200 satin heels. She is thinking about the aesthetic. She is thinking about the front row. She is thinking about the generational symmetry. She doesn't realize that the sturdy chair she's been sitting on for 8 years just grew wheels, and it's about to roll right out of the building. I move the cursor. It clicks. The screen flashes. Are you sure you want to cancel all associated vendors for event ID MILLE WED 2024? The button is red, the color of a stoplight, the color of a debt that has finally matured. I think about the $500 check she handed me on Thursday. Order a steak on me, she had said. The microaggression of her charity. The stench of her fake old money grace. I hit yes. 3:16 p.m. The status bar begins to load. Catering, revoked. Florals, revoked. Venue access, terminated. I start the engine of my Toyota. The air conditioning kicks in. It blows hot, stale air into my face for 30 seconds before it turns cold. I put the car in gear. I don't look at the white garden. I don't look at the Ivy League groom. I look at the road. The forecast for the St. Regis is a total blackout. And for the first time in my life, I am not the one who has to fix the lights. The contrast didn't begin with the wedding invoice. It began in 2002. The house on 4th Street. A bungalow that smelled of damp drywall and cheap pine sol. Daisy was 6. I was 10. Daisy decided she was a ballerina. She had the line, my mother said. The line of a professional. Daisy got the $200 leather ballet slippers from a boutique in the city. Daisy got the private lessons with Madame Elena. $85 per hour. Daisy got the silk ribbons that were imported from a warehouse in New Jersey. I got a job. The studio owner needed the mirrors cleaned every Saturday morning. 6 a.m. The glass was cold. The blue Windex smelled like ammonia and failure. I cleaned the mirrors so Daisy could have the family discount. I watched her reflection for 4 years. She was the art. I was the person who ensured the art could see itself. 28. The 12th birthday contrast. Daisy got a party at a professional tea room. The Grand Duchess package. Cost $1,240. There was a harpist. The cake was a 3-tier strawberry shortcake with hand-sculpted fondant roses. My 12th birthday, 4 years prior, I got a pack of 12 mechanical pencils and a grocery store sheet cake. The frosting had a chemical aftertaste of red dye number 40. My name was misspelled. Sarah. My mother said, "Sarah is so practical. She understands the value of $1. Daisy needs the magic. Magic is expensive, Sarah, and you are the one who makes the magic possible." I remember the first time I felt the sturdy chair logic. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. The sky was the color of a bruised plum. The ceiling in my bedroom started to leak. 1 drop every 4 seconds. I asked for a repair. My mother looked at the water hitting the floorboards. She looked at the $400 tutor bill for Daisy's creative expression class. She handed me a plastic bucket, blue, 5 gallons. "Just put this under it, Sarah. You're a strong girl. A little water won't break you. Daisy has a recital on Friday. She needs to be focused. She can't be distracted by the sound of a leak." I slept with the sound of the bucket for 3 years. The drip, drip, drip became the metronome of my life. It taught me how to count. It taught me that if you wait long enough, everything overflows. 2012. High school graduation. Daisy got a brand new white Jeep Wrangler. $32,000. She needed it to drive to her soul. I got a bus pass and a hand-me-down laptop from my father's old office. The E-key was missing. The battery lasted exactly 14 minutes. I used that laptop to apply for every scholarship in the tri-state area. I used it to apply for the night shift at the logistics firm. If you are watching this, look at the Daisy in your house. The one who gets the Jeep while you get the bus pass. The one who gets the recital while you get the bucket. Subscribe if you've spent your life being the bucket. 2014. Daisy got into an Ivy League school. Not because of her grades. Her GPA was a 2.8. She got in because I wrote her entrance essays. I spent 48 hours straight in a 24-hour library, fueled by $1 coffee and a sense of duty. I wrote about the fragility of the aesthetic. I wrote about the burden of beauty. The admissions board loved it. Daisy got the $55,000 annual tuition. Daisy got the meal plan that included organic kale and grass-fed beef. Daisy got the $3,000 a month lifestyle stipend. I got a student loan. I got a job at a warehouse moving crates of industrial lubricants. 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. The smell of oil never left my pores. I went to community college for the first 2 years. The desks were made of particle board that flaked off on my sleeves. 2016, the Tuscan summer betrayal. Daisy called me from a villa in Fiesole. The background noise was the sound of silver spoons against porcelain. She said, "Sarah, the olive oil here is transformative. I found a new frequency for my spirit, but the villa owner is so transactional. He wants the final 5,000 euros for the residency. Mom said you just got your tax refund. You don't need the money, do you? You're so stable. You have that manager energy. You'll always have a paycheck. But if I don't finish this residency, my spirit will be stunted. Don't be the person who stunts a masterpiece, Sarah." I looked at my bank balance. $5,120.14. It was my move-out fund. The money meant to take me out of the basement and into the light. I looked at the leak in the ceiling. The bucket was full. I transferred the 5,000 euros. I told myself it was an investment in family. I didn't realize I was just funding a parasite's vacation. Daisy didn't send a postcard. She didn't send a text. She came home with a tan that cost $9,000 and a trunk full of leather bags. She gave me a keychain, plastic, a miniature leaning tower of Pisa. It broke the next day, 2018. The NYC grind began. I moved to the city, not to find my soul. I lived in a studio in an area where the sirens never stopped. The walls were thin enough to hear my neighbor's microwave. I worked 80 hours a week. I became a junior analyst for a firm that specialized in distressed assets. I learned how to look at a company and see exactly where the rot was. I learned how to cut the limb to save the body. I wore the same gray coat for 3 years. $10 from a Goodwill in Queens. The wool was pilled. The buttons were mismatched. I looked like a workhorse. I looked like utility. Daisy lived in a loft in Chelsea. I paid the security deposit, $12,000. She said, "Sarah, your coat. It's so suburban noir. It's almost an aesthetic, but maybe don't wear it when you come over." Julian's friends are visual people. The groom, the generational wealth heir, the man who thought Daisy was a Tuscan rose. He didn't know the rose was being watered by a girl in a $10 coat in a Queens basement. Julian entered the picture in 2022. He was a man who smelled of Santal 33 and expensive leisure. He was a venture philanthropist, which is a professional term for someone who spends their father's money on hobbies. Daisy introduced us at a bistro where the menus were handwritten on vellum. The salad was $32. It was 4 leaves of arugula and a prayer. Daisy was wearing a silk slip dress. $600. Paid for by my emergency root canal fund for my mother. My mother didn't have a root canal, she had a spa weekend. Julian looked at me. He didn't look at my eyes. He looked at my watch. A Timex. Functional. He looked at my shoes. Flats from a department store. Daisy said, "This is Sarah. She's my reliable sister. She works in logistics. She's the brawn of the family. She loves the grind. Don't you, Sarah? She'd be lost without a spreadsheet." Julian smiled. It was the smile of a man who had never seen a utility bill. "Logistics," he said. "How? Essential. Every empire needs someone to count the bricks." I sat there and ate the $32 arugula. I thought about the 4,500 bricks I had counted that week. I thought about the $10 million in assets I had just audited for a tech firm. I thought about the fact that Julian's father was a client of my firm. I knew his father's credit score. I knew his father's debt-to-income ratio. I knew that Julian's old money was actually leveraged debt, but I didn't say a word. I was a sturdy chair. And chairs don't speak. Daisy told Julian that our father was a retired architect. She told him our mother was a private art dealer. She built a palace of glass, and she expected me to be the Windex. The microaggressions became a daily weather report. "Sarah, can you pay the deposit for the Hamptons house?" Julian forgot his black card. "Sarah, can you cover the engagement party catering?" Julian's trust fund is in a restructuring phase. "Sarah, you're so good at the boring stuff. Can you handle the wedding contracts?" I read the fine print. I noticed that the saints blame. Regis had a very specific policy for third-party payers. I ensured my name was the only one on the binding signature line. I ensured that I had the administrative override for all vendor communications. Daisy was the face. Julian was the name. But I was the owner. 3 months ago, the wedding dress incident. Daisy wanted the Vera Wang, $12,400. She took me to the fitting. She stood on the pedestal. The silk hit the floor like a waterfall of liquid capital. She looked at me in the mirror. "Sarah, look at the line. It's perfect, isn't it? It makes me look like I've never seen a dirty floor. I need the $12,400 today. The boutique doesn't do installments for masterpieces." I looked at the dress. I thought about the $12,400. That was the cost of a new roof for the family home. The roof that was still leaking. The bucket was still in my old room. I said, "Okay, Daisy, I'll pay for the line." I paid for the line. And then I waited for the line to be drawn in the sand. The uninvitation happened on a Thursday, 48 hours before the ceremony. Daisy's penthouse. The 42nd floor. The view was 100% success. The furniture was minimalist. Cold, hard edges. 4 girls who looked like they were curated by an algorithm. Their names were Madison, Chloe, Brooklyn, and Sky. They were drinking mimosas with $15 a pint raspberries. They were laughing about a girl they knew who had to work for a living. The marble island was the size of a small car. She didn't offer me a drink. She handed me a check. It was for $500. It was drawn on a bank account I had helped her set up. A personal expense account I funded. "Sarah, honey," she began. Her voice was the weather report. "100% chance of betrayal. Julian's mother, Eleanor. She's been looking at the seating chart. She's very focused on the visual flow of the event. She saw your name in the front row. She asked who you were. And when I told her, she was concerned." "Concerned about what?" I asked. "The texture, Sarah. You have that manager energy. Your skin, your clothes, the way you talk about audits and merge-ins. It's very middle class. It breaks the old money spell. Eleanor thinks your presence will introduce a working-class friction into the ceremony. She thinks the guests will see the foundation instead of the palace." I looked at the $500 check. So we've made a decision. For the family brand. For the future. You aren't invited to the St. Regis, Sarah. It's for the best. You're a sturdy chair, honey. You don't need a gala. You belong under the ground. Go to the Marriott. Order a steak. I've already told the bridesmaids you're in the mountains for a spiritual retreat. Don't ruin this for me. This is my only window to fly." I looked at her. I looked at the $12,400 dress in the other room. I looked at the $1,200 shoes. I felt the drip, drip, drip of the old bucket in my mind. The bucket was finally full. "You're right, Daisy," I said. My voice was absolute zero. I am the foundation. And foundations are very, very heavy. I took the $500 check. I folded it twice. I put it in my pocket. "Enjoy your window," I whispered. I walked out. I didn't go to the Marriott. I went to my office. I sat in the dark. I opened the vendor portal. I didn't look at the flowers. I looked at the cancellation rights tab. And then I started to click. Back to the St. Regis Garden. Today. 3:22 p.m. The old money guests are in their seats. Preston, the groom's father, is checking his $8,000 watch. He is expecting the music to swell. He is expecting the Tuscan rose to appear. I am watching the cancellation dashboard on my laptop. It's a series of green lights turning red, one by one. 3:23 p.m. The string quartet's lead cellist looks at his tablet. The digital sheet music for 1,000 years has been replaced by a notification. Notice of service termination. Payment reversed by primary pair. The cellist stops mid-bow. The violinist looks at the conductor. The music doesn't fade. It snaps. Silence hits the garden like a physical blow. 3:24 p.m. The head caterer is in the ballroom kitchen. He is supervising the searing of 200 filet mignons. His phone vibrates in his pocket. It is a high-priority alert from the payment processor. Transaction dispute. $45,000. The caterer looks at the stakes. He looks at his team of 40 waiters. He doesn't hesitate. "Stop everything," he shouts. Clear the trays. We are out of here. The Bank of Sister just closed. 3:25 p.m. The florist's assistant is misting the $4,000 arch. His radio crackles. The wire transfer for the peonies just bounced. The client has revoked the bond. The $12 per stem masterpieces. He takes a pair of shears from his belt. He starts cutting the zip ties. The aesthetic starts to hit the grass. 3:26 p.m. The hotel manager, a man named Henderson, who prides himself on symmetry, enters the garden. He walks with a hurried, un-old money pace. He approaches Julian at the altar. "Mr. Vance," he whispers. "We have a situation. The master credit card for the entire event, the Miller card, has been deactivated. The authorization for the venue rental, the bar, and the security has been canceled. Legally, this is no longer a private event. I have to ask your guests to leave the premises in 5 minutes." Julian looks at the manager. The old money mask falls. "What are you talking about? Daisy paid for this." "No, Mr. Vance," the manager says. He looks at his clipboard. Daisy Miller never signed a document. Sarah Miller did. And Sarah Miller just filed for bankruptcy on your behalf. I look at the rear-view mirror. I see the garden in chaos. The guests are standing up. The old money lineage is looking for the exits. The generational symmetry has been replaced by a working-class blackout. I drive past the St. Regis entrance. I see Daisy standing in the doorway. Her Vera Wang dress is catching the wind. She looks like a masterpiece in a burning gallery. She is looking for the music. She is looking for the workhorse. She is looking for the foundation. But the foundation is 2 miles away, turning onto the highway. Heading for a steakhouse that doesn't have a dress code. The aftermath of a $100,000 blackout isn't quiet. It sounds like high-priority ringtones. I'm sitting in a booth at a local diner. The vinyl seat is cracked. It smells of grease and freedom. I have a 12-ounce ribeye in front of me. It cost $24.99. I am paying for it with the $500 check Daisy gave me. My phone is exploding. 14 missed calls from Mom. 8 missed calls from Daisy. 3 missed calls from Julian. I take a bite of the steak. It is perfectly seasoned. I open my laptop and check the disputed transactions log. The Vera Wang boutique has already sent a courier to the St. Regis. The contract I signed had a non-payment seizure clause. If the final payment was disputed on the day of the event, the boutique had the right to reclaim the garment within 4 hours. I imagine the scene in the bridal suite. The knock on the door. The 2 women in black suits. The Tuscan Rose being asked to step out of the silk. The masterpiece being put back into a garment bag and wheeled into a van. I imagine Daisy standing in her $10 clearance rack slip in a hotel room she can no longer afford, with a groom who just realized her family empire was a queen's basement. The first text from my mother arrives. "Sarah, what have you done? Daisy is in the lobby in her underwear. Julian's mother is calling her a fraud. Fix this now. Call the bank." I type back 1 sentence. The bank is closed for the holiday. My mother calls again. I pick up. I don't say hello. I just listen to the sound of her screaming. It's a high, frantic pitch, the sound of a butterfly realizing it doesn't have a net. "Sarah Miller, you are a monster. You ruined your sister's life. Eleanor Vance is telling everyone we are grifters. She's withdrawing the Hamptons' invitation. The wedding is dead. No, Mom," I say. My voice is the weather report. The wedding isn't dead. It's just out of stock. Now she has it. She's exactly as broke as our father was when he died. That's pretty symmetrical, don't you think? How could you be so cold? She sobs. We are family. Family's a texture, Mom. You told me I was concrete. Concrete doesn't feel the cold. It just holds the weight. But today, I decided to be the weather. And the weather is 100% chance of goodbye. I leave a $50 tip. Because I can afford to be generous when I'm not paying for a lie. Sunday morning. Room 412. I am sitting by the window watching the rain hit the city. There is a knock on the door. It isn't a soft knock. It's the sound of someone who thinks they still own the room. I open the door. It's my mother. She is wearing her art dealer coat. The one with the fake fur collar. Her face is swollen from crying. She pushes past me and sits on the edge of the bed. Daisy is devastated, she says. She doesn't look at me. She looks at my suitcase. Julian left her at the St. Regis. His family took the ring back. They said the contract for the Hamptons house is void. They called us parasites, Sarah, in front of the mayor. They aren't wrong, Mom, I say. I am making a cup of tea. The kettle is whistling. We were parasites. Daisy was the tick. You were the flea. And I was the dog, but the dog just went to the groomer and got a flea bath. You have no heart. My mother screams. She stands up. The microaggression returns like a reflex. You were always the jealous one. The plain one. The one who hated Daisy because she was a masterpiece. You used your money to trap her. You led her to the altar just to push her off the cliff. I turn around. I look at her. I didn't push her, Mom. I just stopped holding the ladder. I've been holding that ladder for 8 years. My arms are tired, my bank account is empty, and my plain face is tired of being the only one that pays the rent. Fix it, my mother commands. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a bill. It's the cancellation fee from the St. Regis. $15,000. Julian's family refused to pay it. They said it's our debt. Pay this, Sarah. And called Julian's mother. Tell her it was a mental breakdown. Tell her you're the unstable one. Protect Daisy's image. I take the bill. I look at the $15K. I think about the $10 thrift coat. I think about the 112 hours of overtime I worked in 2018. I rip the bill in half, then in quarters. I drop the confetti onto her fake fur collar. No, I say. I'm not the unstable one, Mom. I'm the one with the ledger. And the ledger says you owe me $412,000 in lifestyle subsidies since 2016. I'll expect the first installment by Friday. If not, I'll see you in court. I hear the aesthetics of a courtroom are very symmetrical. My mother looks at me. For the first time in 34 years, she sees me. She doesn't see a sturdy chair. She sees a demolition crew. She leaves without another word. The door closes. The room is quiet. The forecast is 100% chance of peace. Monday. I am back at my office. I am the director of distressed assets. I am looking at a new file. It's a foreclosure notice for a property in the Hamptons. Address, 12 Ocean Lane. Owner, Preston Vance, Julian's father. The old money dream was a house of cards. Preston Vance was $50 million in debt. The wedding to Daisy was his last-ditch effort to merge with what he thought was a textile empire. He was a parasite looking for a bigger host. And Daisy was a parasite looking for a golden host. 2 empty vessels trying to pour into each other. I pick up my phone. I call Eleanor Vance, the woman who was sensitive to textures. She picks up. Who is this? She snaps. This is Sarah Miller, I say. The workhorse sister. The one who ruins the aesthetic. There is a long pause. I can hear the sound of the ocean in the background. What do you want, Sarah? I want to talk about the texture of your mortgage, Eleanor. My firm just bought the debt on your Ocean Lane property. As of 9 a.m., I am your landlord, and I find your presence in that house to be aggressive. It ruins the aesthetic of my portfolio. Eleanor gasps. You? You can't. And I will. You have 48 hours to vacate. Don't worry about the furniture. I've already called a repossession consultant. I hear they are very good at moving concrete. I hang up. I feel a surge of energy. It isn't manager energy. It's architect energy. I open my Instagram. I see a post from Daisy. It's a photo of her at a bus stop. She is wearing her $10 clearance rack slip. Her hair is a mess. She is holding a cardboard sign. Betrayed by my own blood. Need funds for justice. She has 42 likes and 100 comments calling her a grifter. I type a comment. The bus comes every 15 minutes, Daisy. It's very stable. It's very functional. Just like a kitchen chair. The first month of my new life was a study in silence. Week 1, I sold the family home, the one with the leaky roof. I didn't fix the leak. I sold it as is. The developer who bought it is turning it into a parking lot. Symmetrical. Functional. Week 2, I moved into a penthouse of my own, the 50th floor. The glass is 3 inches thick. The view is absolute. I didn't hire an art curation expert. I bought one painting. A large gray square. It represents the foundation. It cost $50,000. I paid for it in cash. Week 3, I bought a new coat. $4,000. Cashmere. Camel-colored. It is so soft it feels like a whisper. I wore it to a meeting with Julian's father. He was crying. I offered him a tissue. Then I handed him the eviction papers. Week 4, I received a letter from a lawyer in London. Daisy is being sued for contractual fraud regarding her internship. She owes £30,000. She asked if I would consolidate the debt. I didn't answer the phone. I went to the Saints, Regis. I booked the garden suite for one night. I sat in the garden where the arch used to be. The peonies were gone. The quartet was gone. The old money was gone. I ordered a steak, rare. I ate it alone. I looked at my hands. The workhorse hands. They were clean. The cuticles were perfect. The scar was a badge of honor. I looked at the sky. The humidity was 0%. The air was crisp. The forecast for the rest of my life was clear. My name is Sarah Miller. I am no longer the sturdy chair. I am the sky. And up here, the view is a masterpiece. 6 months after the St. Regis blackout, December 12th. The West Shore Mall. The air smells of artificial cinnamon and the sweat of 4,000 people looking for a discount on joy. The humidity is 42%. The perfect climate for preserving polyester and low-end consumer electronics. I am standing near the food court. I am wearing my $4,000 camel cashmere coat. It is so soft it makes the surrounding world look like sandpaper. I see Daisy. The masterpiece. The vessel of beauty. She is standing behind a counter at Candle Cloud. Buy 3, get 2 free. She is wearing a polyester apron the color of a bruised plum. Her hair, the hair that used to cost $300 a month to maintain, is matted under a 5-cent hairnet. She is holding a glass jar of ocean mist wax. She is trying to explain the top notes to a woman in a tracksuit. Daisy's hands are no longer lineage hands. They are red, chapped, stained with the residue of cheap fragrance oils. She earns $14.25 an hour. After taxes and the employee contribution for her health insurance, she takes home $1,840 a month. Exactly the amount she used to spend on a single weekend in the Hamptons. Flashback to 2015. The aesthetic audit. Daisy was 19. She wanted to be an art curator. Sarah, curators don't just look at art, she told me. She was eating a $28 lobster roll I paid for. They are the art. They provide the context. Without me, the painting is just pigment. But I need the $6,000 for the Sotheby's prep course. It's about the network, honey. The network is the only thing that's real. I gave her the $6,000. I was 23. I was working as a document auditor for a bankruptcy firm. I spent my nights in a room with no windows, reading the suicide notes of failing companies. I learned that the network is the first thing that disappears when the cash runs. Daisy sees me. She doesn't fly. She doesn't glow. The ocean mist jar slips from her hand. It hits the linoleum. Smash. The glass shatters into exactly 114 pieces. The scent of synthetic sea salt fills the air. It smells like a chemical spill in a laundry room. Sarah, she whispers. Her voice is no longer the weather report. It is a broken radio. The jar is $12.50, Daisy, I say. I don't use an emotional tone. I use the auditor tone. They'll deduct that from your next paycheck. That's about 52 minutes of your life. I suggest you get a broom. Brooms are very functional. They have great texture. You destroyed me, she hisses. The tracksuit woman looks at her, confused. Julian's family. They sent a private investigator. They found out about the basement. They found out about the textile empire being a lie. Eleanor Vance told everyone I was a pathological parasite. I can't even get an internship at a library, Sarah. No one will touch my vibe. Vibes don't have collateral, Daisy, I tell her. I reach into my bag. I pull out a $20 bill. I place it on the counter. Keep the change. Use it to buy some industrial soap. I hear it's great for workhorse hands. I walk away. I don't look back at the masterpiece on her knees, scrubbing wax off a mall floor. The forecast for the candle cloud is a 100% chance of a low-wage evening. January 14th. The sky is a flat, unblinking gray. The kind of weather that makes the city look like a black and white photograph of a funeral. I am parked across the street from Liberty and Loans, and a pawn shop with a neon sign that hums at exactly 60 hertz. I see my mother's car, a 2012 Buick. The muffler is loose. It sounds like a dying animal dragging a... She gets out. She is wearing the art dealer coat. The fake fur is matted. She is carrying a velvet box. The blue velvet is worn at the corners. Inside are the grandmother's pearls, the ones that were supposed to be my graduation gift, the ones Daisy wore to the engagement party. I watch her through the window. The lighting inside the shop is fluorescent, cool white, 4,000 kelvins. It shows every crack in her foundation. It shows the way her fingers tremble when she opens the box. The pawnbroker is a man named Sol. He wears a jeweler's loop like a third eye. He looks at the pearls. He looks at my mother. He sees the grieving matriarch mask. He doesn't care about the mask. He only cares about the nacre. Flashback to 2017, the graduation theft. I was 25. I graduated with my master's in quantitative analysis, top of my class. I came home to the basement. I expected the pearls. Grandmother had promised them to me on her deathbed. For the one who holds the weight, she had whispered. My mother sat me down. She used the aesthetic voice. Sarah, honey, the pearls, they need a certain neckline. Very sturdy. But Daisy, she has the swan neck. The pearls look like they were born on her skin. It would be a crime against beauty to put them on a work course. I've given them to her for her debutante season. Don't be bitter. You have your degree. A degree is stable. Pearls are magic. Now, back at the pawn shop. Saul writes a number on a yellow slip. $800. The pearls are worth $15,000. But they are uncertified, and my mother is desperate. Regis cancellation fee is due. The lifestyle subsidies are gone, she argues. I can see her mouth moving. She is talking about generational symmetry. Saul shrugs. He points to the door. She takes the $800. She leaves the pearls. She walks out into the gray rain. She doesn't see me in my Lexus. I pick up my phone. I call the shop. This is Sarah Miller. I'll take the Akoya pearls Saul just put in the tray. I'll pay $2,000. Keep the change for the third eye. The pearls are in a plastic bag on the passenger seat. They don't look like magic anymore. They look like a paid-in-full invoice. The forecast for the Miller family jewelry is 0% luster. February 15th. The Hamptons. 12 Ocean Lane. The Vance estate. The air smells of salt, cedar wood, and $50 million of bad decisions. The humidity is 90%. The sea mist is thick enough to hide a ghost. I'm standing on the porch, the wraparound porch Daisy used to brag about. I am wearing my cashmere coat and a pair of $1,200 boots, built for the background. But today, I'm the foreground. Eleanor Vance opens the door. She is wearing a silk robe. $1,200. It is stained with coffee. Her hair is not curated. It is frantic. She looks at me like I am a virus. You, she whispers. The sister, the landlord, Eleanor, I say. I hold up a legal folder. Sarah Miller, Director of Spine Logistics. We closed the acquisition of your mortgage at 9 a.m. Your debt-to-income ratio is 114%. Your liquidity is 0. Your old money is actually a series of interest-only loans from a bank that no longer exists. Eleanor tries to use the microaggression. It's a reflex. You have no lineage, Sarah Miller. You are a middle-class predator. You don't understand the texture of this life. You can buy the debt, but you can't buy the vibe. I look at the cedar railing. I run my finger along the wood. The vibe is currently in foreclosure, Eleanor. The texture of your life is about to be cardboard. As in the boxes you have 48 hours to fill. Julian is devastated, she screams. That girl, that Daisy, she ruined him. No, Eleanor, I say. My voice is absolute 0. Daisy didn't ruin him. Mathematics ruined him. He married a masterpiece with my money. And you welcomed a textile empire with my credit score. You were all looking for a sturdy chair to sit on, but the chair decided to become a demolition crew. I hand her the eviction notice. It is printed on 24 pounds bond paper. Professional. I hear the Marriott down the street is very functional. Charge it to your memories. I walk down the steps. I don't look at the ocean. I look at my watch. It's 3:14 p.m. The exact time I hit cancel at the St. Regis. The symmetry is perfect. March 28th. My penthouse, the 50th floor. The silence is 3 inches thick. The only sound is the hum of the wine fridge and the distant siren of a city that never sleeps. I'm sitting at my marble island, the size of a small car. Security informs me that the Miller family is downstairs. Miller. Send them up, I say. I have a gap in my schedule. They enter the room. My mother, Daisy. They look like a before photo in a Success magazine. Daisy is wearing her mall uniform. My mother is wearing a coat from a thrift store. The same Goodwill in Queens where I used to buy my $10 gray wool. The irony is a physical weight in the room. My mother doesn't look at the 50,000 gray square painting. She looks at me in a fridge. Sarah, she says. Her voice is a plea disguised as a command where family. Blood is thicker than water. Daisy's being evicted from her studio. The cancellation fee has wiped out my savings. Juanita Foundation. Sarah. Justice Maloan. 50,000 gray square painting. She'll look Sathween fridge. Sarah. Her voice is a pleaded disguised as a command-wear family. Bloody stickers and water. Daisy's being evicted from her studio. The cancellation fee has wiped out my savings. Juanita Foundation. Sarah Justice Malo. To get Daisy back into a curator program. To restore our image. I take a sip of a $400 glass of Bordeaux. Blood is thicker than water, Mom, but it doesn't pay the rent. And it certainly doesn't cover 22% interest. Daisy steps forward. The masterpiece tries one last microaggression. You think you're so smart, don't you? Sitting up here in your aesthetic tower. But you're still just the workhorse, Sarah. You're just a manager with a bigger desk. No one loves a foundation. People love the rose. I look at Daisy. I look at her red oil-stained hands. I look at the broken hairnet in her pocket. The rose is dead, Daisy. It died in the parking lot of the St. Regis. It died because the pilot decided to crash the plane. And as for the foundation, I love it. I love the weight of it. I love that it doesn't need to be watered by someone else's 80-hour work week. I pull out 2 envelopes. I place them on the marble. Inside these envelopes are bus tickets to Ohio. Aunt Martha has a spare room. She needs her mirrors cleaned every Saturday. 6 a.m. The Windex is under the sink. Ohio? My mother gasps. There's no vibe in Ohio. No, I say. But there's stability. And stability is the only currency I'm issuing today. They don't take the envelopes. They scream. They call me a monster. They call me cold. I press a button on my desk. Security enters the room. The Miller family is leaving, I say. Ensure their aesthetic doesn't hit the elevator doors on the way out. Present day. 3:14 p.m. I am standing on my balcony. The humidity is 0%. The air is crisp. The sky is a vast, unblemished blue. I'm wearing the Akoya pearls. They feel cold against my skin. They feel heavy. I like the weight. I look down at the city. I see the St. Regis in the distance. I see the park where I used to clean mirrors. I see the basement in Queens where the bucket used to live. I open my laptop. I check the Spine Logistics dashboard. Assets, $150 million. Debt, 0. Family subsidies, 0. I receive a text from an unknown number. It's a photo. Daisy, in Ohio. She is holding a spray bottle of Windex. She is looking at a mirror. She isn't smiling. She is looking at the line of a janitor. I delete the photo. I close the laptop. I reach into my pocket. I feel the $500 check Daisy gave me a year ago. I never cashed it. I never will. It is a relic. A reminder of the day the sturdy chair decided to fly. I look at the horizon. The forecast for the rest of my life is clear skies. No drips. No buckets. My name is Sarah Miller. I am the architect of the blackout. I am the owner of the silence. And for the first time in 34 years, the view is perfect. The end.